The ballet studio smelled like rosin and old wood, and Maya Chen was convinced her life had become as predictable as the 5 positions she taught 20 times a day. She stood in the corner of the community center's mirrored room, watching her beginner adult class struggle through pliés, when the door opened and a man walked in wearing expensive running shoes that had clearly never seen actual exercise. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair slightly disheveled like he had been running his hands through it, and he looked completely out of place among the middle-aged women in their discount leotards. "Is this the beginner's ballet class?" he asked, his voice low and uncertain. Maya tried not to stare. Men in her classes were rare enough, but men who looked like they belonged on magazine covers were practically extinct. "It is, you are late," he said with a self-deprecating smile, "and apparently underdressed. I'm Owen. Maya, grab a spot at the bar. We are just warming up." She watched him move to the back of the room, his movements careful and hesitant. He was trying so hard to blend in that it made her smile. Over the next hour, she guided the class through basic positions, correcting posture and encouraging her students. Owen followed instructions with intense concentration, his brow furrowed like he was trying to solve a complicated equation with his body. When class ended, most students filtered out quickly, but Owen lingered, stretching badly in the corner. "You did well for your first class," Maya said, walking over. He laughed, a genuine sound that filled the studio. "You are being kind. I nearly fell over during the relevés. Everyone does at first. What made you want to try ballet?" Owen hesitated, and something flickered across his face, something that looked like vulnerability. "I wanted to do something that scared me, something where I could not rely on what I already know." There was a story there Maya could tell, but she did not push. "Well, you picked the right class. Nothing humbles you quite like realizing your body does not move the way your brain thinks it should. That describes today perfectly." He grabbed his water bottle and jacket. "Same time next week, every Wednesday at 7. After he left, Maya found herself thinking about him as she locked up the studio. There had been something genuine in his awkwardness, something refreshing. Most of the men who occasionally wandered into her classes either had dancer girlfriends who dragged them along, or were trying to pick up women. Owen had seemed like he actually wanted to be there. The next Wednesday he showed up 15 minutes early, wearing proper dance clothes this time, though they still looked brand new. "I practiced," he announced as she set up the sound system. "Oh really? I watched videos online. I probably looked ridiculous in my living room." She grinned. "That is how everyone learns. Let me see your first position." He demonstrated, and she could see he had practiced. His form was still rough, but the effort was there. Without thinking, she stepped closer and adjusted his shoulders, her hands light on his arms. He went very still under her touch. "Like this," she said softly. "Let your shoulders drop. You are holding all your tension here." "Sorry," he murmured. "I tend to do that." "What do you do for work?" she asked as she stepped back. "You seem like someone who carries a lot of stress." "I work in manufacturing," he said, which was not really an answer. "Family business. It is complicated." Maya nodded, sensing he did not want to elaborate. "Well, ballet is good for stress. Forces you to focus on your body instead of your thoughts." Over the following weeks, Owen became a regular fixture in her class. He improved steadily, his natural athleticism starting to show through once he stopped overthinking every movement. Maya found herself looking forward to Wednesdays in a way she had not anticipated. There was something about teaching Owen specifically that felt different. He listened intently when she spoke, asked thoughtful questions, and never made excuses when he struggled. After the 4th class, as she was packing up, he approached her hesitantly. "Can I ask you something?" Owen said. "Sure. Why do you teach here? I mean, you are obviously professionally trained. This community center seems beneath your skill level." Maya felt her defenses rise slightly, but his expression was genuinely curious, not judgmental. "I danced professionally for 6 years. Company ballet, small tours, the whole thing. Then I blew out my knee." She gestured to her left leg. "2 surgeries later I can teach and demonstrate, but performing is done." "I am sorry." "Do not be. I love teaching. And this community center, these people actually want to be here. They are not competing or comparing themselves to everyone else. They just want to move and feel good in their bodies. It is pure in a way professional dance never was." Owen nodded slowly. "That makes sense. I think that is why I like this class. Nobody knows me here. I am just another person trying not to fall over." "Are you someone people usually know?" He smiled mysteriously. "In certain circles." It was not until the 8th week that Maya learned the truth, and it happened completely by accident. She had stopped at a coffee shop after class, still in her dance clothes with a hoodie thrown over, when she saw a business magazine on the counter. The cover featured a photo of Owen in an expensive suit, looking serious and corporate. The headline read, "Owen Mitchell transforms Mitchell Industries into manufacturing powerhouse." Maya picked up the magazine, staring at the image. Owen Mitchell. As in Mitchell Industries, one of the largest manufacturing companies in the state. As in, the 32-year-old CEO who had taken over his family business 3 years ago and tripled its value. As in, millionaire many times over. She bought the magazine and read the article at home, learning about his MBA from Harvard, his reputation for being ruthlessly efficient but fair with employees, his complete lack of public social life. The article painted him as a workaholic genius who lived and breathed business strategy. The man in the magazine seemed like a completely different person from the one who showed up every Wednesday, earnestly trying to master a pirouette. The next class, Maya tried to act normal, but she kept catching herself watching him differently. After everyone else left, Owen stayed behind as usual. "You are being weird tonight," he said, stretching at the bar. "I am not." "You are. Did I do something wrong?" Maya sighed and pulled out the magazine from her bag, holding it up. "I saw this." Owen's expression shifted, something shuddering behind his eyes. "Ah. Why did you not tell me? Because this," he gestured to the magazine, "is not who I want to be when I am here. Here I am just Owen, the guy who cannot nail a proper arabesque. I like being that person." Maya softened. "I get that, but you told me you work in manufacturing. That was a pretty significant understatement." "Would you have treated me the same if you knew?" She wanted to say yes, but honestly she was not sure. Probably not at first. "I would have wondered why a CEO was slumming it at a community center ballet class." "Exactly. And for the record, I am not slumming it. This class is the highlight of my week." Something in his voice made her look at him more carefully. There was a loneliness in his eyes that the magazine had not captured, a weariness that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion. "Why ballet?" she asked quietly. "Really?" Owen was silent for a long moment. "My sister was a dancer. She died 4 years ago, car accident. She always wanted me to take a class with her, but I was always too busy, too focused on work. After she was gone, I kept thinking about all the things I said no to. So when I saw a flyer for your class, I just signed up. I thought maybe I could understand what she loved so much." Maya's chest tightened. "Owen, I am so sorry. Her name was Claire. She would have liked you. She had that same way of teaching, patient but pushing people to be better. I wish I could have met her." "Me too." He cleared his throat, visibly pulling himself together. "Anyway, now you know." "Does it change things?" "No," Maya said and meant it. "You are still just Owen who cannot nail an arabesque." His smile was relieved and genuine. "Good. That is all I want to be here." They fell into an easy rhythm after that. Owen continued attending classes, and Maya found herself opening up to him in ways she usually did not with students. They talked after class about everything and nothing, her past in professional dance, his struggles with work-life balance, their shared love of terrible action movies and good coffee. It was after the 12th class when Owen asked her something that changed everything. "Do you ever dance for yourself anymore?" he said as they walked out to the parking lot together. "Not teaching, not demonstrating, just dancing," Maya shrugged. "Not really. The studio is rented in blocks. I do not have much free time there." "That seems wrong. You should dance." "It is hard to dance alone in an empty studio. Takes the joy out of it." Owen stopped by his car, a surprisingly modest sedan for a millionaire. "What if you were not alone?" "What do you mean?" "What if I rented the studio for an hour after your class next week? You could dance, and I could watch and maybe learn something by seeing you actually perform. If you wanted." It was a strange offer, intimate in a way that made her heart beat faster. "You want to rent a studio just so I can dance? I want you to have space to do what you love." "And selfishly, yes, I would love to see you really dance." Maya should have said no. It blurred lines between teacher and student, between professional and personal. But something in his expression, hopeful and earnest, made her say yes. The next Wednesday, after class ended and everyone left, Owen locked the door and turned to her expectantly. The studio felt different with just the two of them, more intimate, the mirrors reflecting them back in infinite repetition. "I do not know what to do," Maya admitted, suddenly nervous. "Do whatever feels right. Pretend I am not here." "That is impossible." "Then pretend I am." He sat down against the wall, making himself comfortable. "Dance like no one is watching." The phrase made her smile. It was such a cliché, something people said without understanding what it meant. But Owen was looking at her with such open encouragement that she felt something loosen in her chest. She walked to the sound system and chose a piece she had always loved, a haunting piano melody that built slowly. When the music started, she let herself feel it first, eyes closed, body swaying slightly. Then she began to move. It was rusty at first, her body remembering and relearning simultaneously. But then muscle memory took over, and she was dancing the way she used to before the injury, before the disappointment. She let the music guide her through turns and leaps, extensions and falls. Her knee twinged occasionally, reminding her of its limitations, but she danced through it, adjusting and adapting. She forgot about Owen watching. She forgot about the community center and her careful, structured classes. She just danced. When the music ended, she was breathing hard, a light sheen of sweat on her skin. She opened her eyes and found Owen staring at her with an expression that made her breath catch. It was not just admiration. It was something deeper, rawer. "That was extraordinary," he said quietly. "I am out of practice, Maya." He stood up, walking toward her slowly. "That was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." The air between them felt charged. Maya was acutely aware of how close he was, the way he was looking at her like she was something precious. "I should not have stopped dancing," she whispered. "Even after the injury, I should have found a way. You can now, any time you want. I will rent this studio every week if that is what it takes." "Owen, you do not have to do that." "I know I do not have to. I want to." He reached out, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I want you to have everything you want." Her heart was pounding. "Why?" "Because watching you come alive like that, seeing you completely in your element, it made me realize something I have been trying to ignore for weeks now." "What?" "That I am falling for you. That I have been falling for you since that first class when you corrected my posture and did not treat me like I was fragile or incompetent. That every Wednesday is the only day I actually feel like myself anymore. Maya's breath caught. She had been trying not to acknowledge her own growing feelings, telling herself it was just a student-teacher dynamic, that it would fade. But seeing him now, vulnerable and honest, she could not lie to herself anymore. "I have been trying not to notice," she admitted. "It seemed complicated." "It does not have to be. You are a millionaire CEO. I teach ballet at a community center. Our lives are completely different. So, my life is spreadsheets and board meetings and making decisions that affect hundreds of people. Your life is helping people find joy in movement and art. Which one sounds better to you? That is not fair. Your work matters. So does yours. More, maybe. You changed lives, Maya. You changed mine." She wanted to kiss him. The urge was overwhelming, and from the way he was looking at her, she knew he felt it too, but something held her back. "I need to think," she said softly. "This is a lot." Owen nodded, stepping back to give her space. "I understand. Take all the time you need. I will still be in class next Wednesday either way. You will. I am not going anywhere." Maya did think about it constantly for the next week. She weighed the complications against the feelings, the practical concerns against the way her heart lifted every time she remembered the look in Owen's eyes. She talked to her best friend Simone, who told her she was an idiot if she did not go for it. She made lists of pros and cons, then threw them away because reducing Owen to a list felt wrong. By the time Wednesday came around, she still did not have a clear answer. But when Owen walked into the studio, their eyes met and something settled in her chest. She knew. Class went normally, though Maya was hyper-aware of Owen the entire time. When everyone else left and they were alone, he approached her cautiously. "I have been thinking too," he said before she could speak. "And I want you to know there is no pressure. If you want to keep things professional, I will respect that. I just needed you to know how I feel." Maya took a deep breath. "I want to try. I want to see where this goes, but we need to take it slow, okay? I need to figure out how this works." The smile that broke across Owen's face was radiant. "Slow is good. Slow is great. Can slow include dinner this weekend?" "Yes," she said, smiling back. "Slow can include dinner." Their first date was at a small Italian restaurant Owen knew, tucked away in a neighborhood Maya had never explored. He showed up in jeans and a button-down, looking more relaxed than she had ever seen him. They talked for 3 hours, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Owen told her about growing up in his family's business, the pressure of expectations, the way he had lost himself in work after his sister died. Maya talked about her dance career, the devastation of her injury, the slow process of rebuilding her identity around something new. "I think I needed my knee to blow out," Maya said over dessert. "As awful as it was, it forced me to see that I had built my entire sense of self around one thing. When that was gone, I had to figure out who I actually was." "Who are you?" Owen asked, still figuring it out. "But I think I am someone who loves teaching more than I ever loved performing, someone who values connection over perfection, someone who is tired of playing it safe." "That last part is new, I take it." "Very new," she said, meeting his eyes. "Inspired by someone who walked into my class and decided to try something completely outside his comfort zone. Best decision I ever made." He drove her home after dinner and walked her to her door, the night air cool around them. Maya turned to face him, her back against the door. "I had a really good time," she said. "Me too. Can I see you again, outside of class? I would like that." Owen leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. But Maya did not want to pull away. When his lips touched hers, soft and careful, she felt warmth spread through her entire body. The kiss was gentle, almost chaste, but it held the promise of more. "Good night, Maya," he whispered against her lips. Good night. Over the next 2 months, they fell into a pattern. Owen still came to her Wednesday class, but now they also had dinner dates, movie nights, long walks through the city. He introduced her to his world gradually, taking her to a charity gala where she met his business associates and saw him in CEO mode, commanding and confident. She took him to a professional ballet performance, and he watched with rapt attention, asking her questions about technique and artistic choices. What surprised Maya most was how easily Owen fit into her life. He showed up at the community center to watch her teach her children's class, sitting quietly in the corner and smiling as tiny 6-year-olds stumbled through plies. He brought her coffee exactly how she liked it. He listened when she vented about frustrating students or difficult choreography. But she also saw the stress he carried, the way his phone never stopped ringing, the shadows under his eyes when he had particularly hard weeks. One evening, she showed up at his penthouse apartment unannounced. "Bad day?" she asked when he opened the door looking exhausted. "Bad week," he admitted, letting her in. "We are negotiating a major contract and it is not going well. If this falls through, we might have to lay off 50 people. "Come here," Maya said, leading him to his living room. "Sit down." "Maya, I am not really in the mood for company right now." "Good thing I am not company." She positioned herself behind his chair and started massaging his shoulders, feeling the knots of tension. "You need to breathe. When was the last time you took a full breath?" "I do not know." "Breathe with me. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 4. This is ballet breathing technique." "It is. And it works. Do it." Owen sighed but complied, and gradually Maya felt some of the tension leave his body. They sat like that for 20 minutes, her hands working through the knots in his shoulders while he breathed and slowly relaxed. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I needed this. I know, you take care of everyone else, but who takes care of you? Apparently you do." Maya came around to face him, settling onto his lap. "That is right. So next time you are having a terrible week, you tell me instead of trying to handle it alone, okay?" Owen wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer. "Okay, but you have to promise the same thing. No more pretending everything is fine when it is not. Deal?" They kissed, slow and deep, and for the first time Maya felt like they were truly partners, not just 2 people dating, but 2 people building something real together. It was not always easy. Owen's work schedule was demanding and unpredictable. Maya's teaching hours were mostly evenings and weekends, which meant they had to be creative about finding time together. And there was the matter of their different worlds. When they attended an industry dinner together, Maya overheard someone comment that Owen had brought the dance teacher, the tone implying she was a temporary distraction. It stung more than she wanted to admit. Owen noticed her withdrawal on the drive home. "What is wrong?" "Nothing." "Maya." "We promised, remember," she sighed. "Someone at dinner basically implied I was not good enough for you, that I am just a temporary thing until you find someone more suitable." Owen pulled the car over abruptly, turning to face her. "Who said that?" "It does not matter. It does to me." "Maya, look at me." He waited until she met his eyes. "You are not temporary. You are not a distraction. You are the most real thing in my life. Anyone who cannot see how extraordinary you are does not deserve a second of your attention." "But they are not completely wrong. We are from different worlds." "So what? I do not want someone from my world. I have been surrounded by people from my world my entire life, and they are exhausting. You make me feel like I can breathe, like I am more than just my job and my bank account. Do not let anyone make you question what we have." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I am scared. I am scared that one day you will wake up and realize you could have someone easier, someone who fits better into your life." "I do not want easier, I want you." He cupped her face gently. I am in love with you, Maya, completely, terrifyingly in love with you, her breath caught. You love me. I do. I have been trying to find the right time to tell you, but there is no right time. I just love you. I love you too, she whispered. I have for a while now. They kissed there in the parked car, and Maya felt the last of her doubts dissolve. This was real. This was right. After that night, something shifted between them. They stopped hedging, stopped holding back pieces of themselves. Owen started keeping clothes at Maya's apartment. Maya got her own key to his place. They talked about the future in concrete terms, not just vague possibilities. But there was still one significant conversation they needed to have, and it came unexpectedly on a Saturday morning when they were making breakfast together in Owen's kitchen. I need to tell you something, Owen said, flipping pancakes with intense concentration, and I do not want you to freak out. Maya looked up from cutting fruit. That is a terrible way to start a sentence. I know, but I have been thinking about something, and I need to be honest about it. He plated the pancakes and turned to face her. I have been trying to figure out how to make my life more balanced, how to make space for things that matter beyond work, and I have realized something. What? I want to start a foundation. Something focused on arts education, specifically making dance and music accessible to kids who could not otherwise afford it. I want to do something that would have made Claire happy, something meaningful, and I want you to help me run it. Maya stared at him. Owen, I do not know anything about running a foundation. But you know dance education. You know what kids need, what programs work, how to inspire people. I can handle the business and funding side. Together, we could actually make a difference. That is a huge undertaking. I know. And if you are not interested, that is okay. But I think we could do something really special. You could still teach your community center classes if you wanted. This would be something we build together. Maya felt overwhelmed and excited in equal measure. Can I think about it? Of course. Take your time. But the more Maya thought about it over the following weeks, the more excited she became. She started researching similar programs, making notes about curriculum and outreach. She talked to her students and other teachers, gathering ideas. And she realized that Owen had given her something she did not know she needed, a new dream to work toward. I am in, she told him one evening over dinner at her apartment. I want to do this with you. Owen's face lit up. Really, really, but I have conditions. I want us to partner with existing community centers and schools, not build something separate. I want at least 60% of our funding to go directly to programming, and I want creative control over curriculum development. Done, done, and done. You are incredible. You know that. I do my best. They spent the next 6 months laying groundwork for what they called the Claire Mitchell Foundation for Arts Education. Owen handled the legal and financial structures while Maya developed programs and built relationships with schools and community organizations. It was exhausting and exhilarating, and they fell into an easy working partnership that only strengthened their relationship. The foundation launched in September with a pilot program in 5 schools. Maya hired 2 dance instructors and a music teacher, all people she knew and trusted. Owen secured funding from several corporate donors and matched it with his own money. The first day of classes, they visited each school together, watching kids light up as they learned basic dance positions and rhythm exercises. This is what it is all about, Maya said, watching a shy 8-year-old girl nail her first releve, her face glowing with pride. Claire would have loved this, Owen said quietly. Thank you for making it real. We made it real together. That night, Owen took Maya to the ballet studio where they had first really connected, the community center space that had started everything. He had rented it again, and when they walked in, Maya gasped. The room was filled with candles, their soft light reflecting infinitely in the mirrors. Music was playing softly, the same haunting piano piece she had danced to that first night. "Owen, what is this?" He took her hands, looking nervous in a way she rarely saw. "This is where everything changed for me. Where you danced and I realized I could not pretend anymore that this was just a crush or infatuation. This is where I started to understand what love actually feels like." "Owen, let me finish, please." He took a breath. "You told me to dance like no one was watching. But the thing is, I do not want to dance like no one is watching. I want to dance knowing you are watching, knowing you see me, really see me. I want to spend my life being seen by you and seeing you right back." He let go of her hands and lowered himself to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. Maya's heart stopped. "Maya Chen, will you marry me?" She was crying before she even processed the question, tears streaming down her face as she nodded frantically. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Owen stood up, sliding the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and then they were kissing and laughing and crying together. The candles flickered around them, and Maya had never felt more completely, perfectly happy. "Dance with me," Owen said, pulling back slightly. "Here, now. Right here, right now. Dance with me like everyone is watching, because I want the whole world to know you are mine and I am yours." So they danced in the candlelit studio, clumsy and joyful and completely in love. Owen had improved significantly over the months, but he still was not graceful. It did not matter. They moved together, laughing when he stepped on her feet, kissing between turns, completely absorbed in each other. "I love you," Maya whispered against his chest. "I love you so much. I love you too. Forever." They were married the following spring in a small ceremony at the Botanical Gardens, surrounded by close friends and family. Maya wore a simple white dress that let her move freely, and they had their first dance to the piano piece that had become their song. Owen still was not a perfect dancer, but he held her close and moved with her, and that was all that mattered. The Claire Mitchell Foundation grew steadily over the next 2 years. They expanded to 20 schools, added visual arts programming, and secured major grants that allowed them to offer free classes to hundreds of kids. Maya split her time between overseeing programs and still teaching her beloved Wednesday night class at the community center, which Owen still attended whenever his schedule allowed. 2 years after their wedding, Maya stood in the bathroom of their shared home, staring at a positive pregnancy test. She heard Owen come in from work, calling out a greeting. "In here," she called back, her voice shaky. Owen appeared in the doorway, immediately concerned. "What is wrong?" Maya held up the test, unable to speak. Owen stared at it, then at her, then back at the test. His face went through about 5 different expressions before landing on pure joy. "We are having a baby," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "We are having a baby." He crossed the room in 2 strides, lifting her up and spinning her carefully. "We are having a baby." They laughed and cried together, overwhelmed by the enormity of it. That night they lay in bed talking about names and nursery colors and all the ways their life was about to change. "Are you scared?" Maya asked, her head on his chest. "Terrified," Owen admitted. "But also more excited than I have ever been. We are going to be parents. We have no idea what we are doing. We will figure it out. We always do." 9 months later, they welcomed a daughter they named Claire Rose Mitchell. She had Owen's dark hair and Maya's eyes, and from the moment they brought her home, their lives became a beautiful chaos of diaper changes and sleepless nights and overwhelming love. When Claire was 6 months old, Maya brought her to the community center during her Wednesday class. Owen showed up as usual, and after class they stood together watching their daughter attempt to grab her own feet while lying on a blanket in the corner. "She is going to be a dancer," Owen declared. "Look at that leg extension." Maya laughed. She is 6 months old. She is not extending, she is just flexible. Mark my words, she has got your grace and your determination. Owen wrapped his arm around Maya's waist, pulling her close. I still cannot believe this is my life sometimes, that I get to have this with you. I know the feeling. Sometimes I think about that first class when you walked in looking completely lost, and I cannot believe we ended up here. I was not lost. I was exactly where I needed to be. Claire made a happy gurgling sound as if agreeing, and they both laughed. Over the years that followed, their life continued to unfold in ways that felt almost too good to be true. The foundation became one of the most respected arts education nonprofits in the region. Maya and Owen collaborated on every major decision, their partnership growing stronger with each challenge they faced together. They bought a house with space for a home dance studio, where Maya taught private lessons and sometimes just danced for the joy of it, while Owen watched with the same captivated expression he had worn that first night. When Claire was 4, she started dance classes, and she took to it naturally, moving with an unself-conscious grace that made Maya's heart ache with pride. Owen attended every single recital, often getting more nervous than Claire did. They had a son 2 years after Claire, a boy they named James, who had Maya's nose and Owen's business sense, even as a toddler. He was less interested in dance but loved music, and by age 5 was teaching himself piano with fierce determination. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Owen surprised Maya by buying the community center building where they had met. It was going out of business, about to be sold to a developer, and Owen purchased it and donated it to the foundation with one condition: that Maya's Wednesday night beginner ballet class would always have a home there. "You bought an entire building to preserve my class," Maya said, stunned. "I bought the building where my life actually started, where I learned that there was more to living than working and achieving. This place matters, your class matters, and now it will always be here." Maya kissed him, deep and grateful and full of love. "You are the most extraordinary man I have ever met. I am just a guy who got lucky enough to walk into the right ballet class." The Wednesday night class continued to thrive, now with a waitlist of eager students. Owen still attended when he could, and occasionally Claire or James would join too, the 4 of them moving together in the mirrored studio that held so much history. Sometimes Maya would catch Owen watching her while she taught, that same intense look of love and admiration he had worn years ago when he first saw her truly dance. And she would smile, because she knew exactly what he was thinking. He was remembering that moment when everything changed, when a random ballet class became the foundation of their entire life together. On their 15th anniversary, they returned to the botanical gardens where they had gotten married. The kids were with Owen's parents for the weekend, and it was just the 2 of them walking through the spring flowers. "You ever regret it?" Maya asked, lacing her fingers through his. "Choosing this life instead of focusing purely on business? You could have built an even bigger empire if you had not split your attention." Owen stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "Maya, look at me. Do I look like a man with regrets?" She studied his face, seeing the laugh lines around his eyes, the contentment in his expression, the way he looked at her like she was still the most fascinating person in the world. "No, you look happy." "I am happy. Deliriously, completely happy." The foundation has helped thousands of kids discover arts education. Our children are healthy and thriving, and I get to wake up every morning next to the love of my life. I built the empire that mattered, and you are at the center of it. That is incredibly romantic. I am an incredibly romantic guy. You just did not know it when we met because I was too busy being terrible at ballet. Maya laughed, the sound carrying through the gardens. "You are still pretty terrible at ballet." "Hey, I have improved." "You have. But you will never be graceful." "I do not need to be graceful. I just need to be yours." They kissed there among the flowers, 15 years of love and partnership in that single moment. When they pulled apart, Maya rested her forehead against his. "Thank you for walking into my class that day," she whispered. "Thank you for being brave enough to try something new." "Thank you for teaching me how to dance," Owen replied. "In every sense of the word." They spent the rest of the afternoon walking through the gardens, talking about their kids and the foundation and their dreams for the future. They talked about eventually traveling, taking the family to see great ballet companies around the world. They talked about expanding the foundation internationally. They talked about growing old together, teaching their grandchildren to dance someday. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they found themselves back at the spot where they had gotten married. Maya stood in Owen's arms, swaying slightly to music only they could hear. "Dance with me," Owen said softly, echoing the words from their engagement. "Always," Maya replied. And they danced there in the fading light, a millionaire CEO and a ballet teacher who had found in each other everything they never knew they needed. They danced like everyone was watching, and like no one was watching all at once, because they had learned that the most important thing was simply to dance together. Their love story had started with ballet and vulnerability, with a man brave enough to step out of his comfort zone, and a woman generous enough to see beyond his wealth to the person underneath. It had grown through challenges and triumphs, through building something meaningful together, through the everyday moments that made up a life. And as they danced in the botanical gardens with 15 years of marriage behind them and a lifetime ahead, Maya thought about that first night when she had told Owen to dance like no one was watching. She had never realized then that he had already memorized every move she made, that he had been falling in love with her from those first tentative ballet positions. But now she knew. Now she understood that the best love stories are not about grand gestures or perfect moments. They are about showing up, week after week, year after year. They are about being brave enough to be seen and patient enough to truly see someone else. They are about building a life together, step by step, movement by movement, until you have created something beautiful. As darkness fell and stars began to appear overhead, Owen and Maya continued to dance, their movements slow and tender and full of history. Around them, the world continued on, but in that moment they were complete unto themselves. Two people who had found their way to each other against all odds and built a love that would last forever. Their children would grow up hearing the story of how they met, about the ballet class and the candlelit proposal and all the moments in between. Claire and James would see daily proof that real love exists, that it is possible to find someone who sees you completely and loves you anyway. They would learn that the best relationships are partnerships, built on respect and shared dreams and the willingness to keep showing up even when things get hard. And someday, when Claire was older and asked her father why he had chosen to take that first ballet class, Owen would tell her the truth. That he had been looking for something he could not name, a connection to his lost sister and maybe to a part of himself he had buried under work and responsibility. He had walked into that community center studio expecting nothing more than an hour of awkward exercise. Instead, he had found everything. He had found grace and beauty and challenge. He had found a woman who looked at him and saw not a CEO or a bank account but a person trying to figure out how to live fully. He had found love in its truest, most transformative form. And Maya, when asked the same question, would say that she had been teaching that class for 2 years before Owen walked in, going through the motions, comfortable but not particularly inspired. Then suddenly, there was this man, clearly successful and accomplished, making himself vulnerable and awkward for the sake of trying something new. There was something irresistible about his willingness to be bad at something, to put in effort without any guarantee of success. She had fallen in love with his dedication first, the way he practiced and improved and never made excuses. Then she had fallen in love with his kindness, the way he listened intently and remembered small details. And finally, she had fallen in love with him entirely, with every part of who he was, the CEO and the amateur dancer and the grieving brother and the man who just wanted to live a life that mattered. Their love story was not a fairy tale in the traditional sense. There was no magic, no love at first sight, no dramatic rescue. Instead, it was something better. A slow build of genuine connection, mutual respect, and shared values. It was two people choosing each other, again and again, through all the ordinary and extraordinary moments that make up a life. As they finally left the gardens that evening, hand in hand, walking toward their car and their life and their future, Maya squeezed Owen's hand. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too," he replied. "Forever." And in that forever, there would be more Wednesday night classes and foundation galas and family dance parties in the living room. There would be teenage rebellion and college applications, and eventually grandchildren who would learn to dance in the same studio where their grandparents had met. There would be challenges and setbacks and moments of doubt, but through it all, there would be love. The kind of love that transforms, that makes everything better, that turns a random ballet class into the start of something extraordinary. The kind of love that lasts not because it is easy, but because both people are committed to making it work, to showing up fully, to dancing through life together. Years later, when the community center was renamed the Claire Mitchell Arts Center, and Maya cut the ribbon while Owen stood beside her, she would think about how far they had come from that first class. How a chance decision by a lonely CEO had rippled outward, touching hundreds of lives through their foundation, through their family, through the continued work they did to make arts education accessible to all. But in that moment, walking through the gardens on their anniversary, they were just Maya and Owen, two people who had found each other in the most unlikely of places and built a love story worth remembering. They were partners, lovers, best friends, co-parents, and co-dreamers. They were exactly where they were meant to be, and somewhere, Maya liked to think, Owen's sister Claire was smiling, knowing that her brother had finally learned to dance, had finally learned to live, had finally found the kind of joy she had always wanted for him. The foundation bearing her name would be her legacy, but the love between Maya and Owen was her greatest gift, the unexpected result of a brother's grief transforming into something beautiful. As they drove home that night, the radio playing softly, Maya looked over at Owen and felt overwhelming gratitude for every choice that had led them here. For her blown knee that had forced her to teach instead of perform. For Owen's decision to try ballet in honor of his sister. For every Wednesday night class, every conversation, every moment that had built their relationship brick by brick. "What are you thinking about?" Owen asked, catching her looking. "Just how lucky we are, how easily we could have missed each other." "We did not miss each other, though. We found each other, and I would have found you eventually, one way or another. You are impossible to miss, Maya. You light up every room you enter." "That is the corniest thing you have ever said. I stand by it." They pulled into their driveway, and before getting out they sat for a moment in comfortable silence. Inside, their lives awaited. Kids' toys scattered across the floor, dishes probably piled in the sink, the comfortable chaos of a family home. Outside was the foundation and their work and all the responsibilities they carried. But right here, right now, it was just them. Two people who had learned to dance together in every sense of the word. Two people who had chosen love over convenience, partnership over perfection, and genuine connection over everything else. And that, Maya thought as they walked hand in hand to their front door, was the best kind of love story there was. Not the one that looked perfect from the outside, but the one that felt perfect from within. Not the one that was easy, but the one that was worth every challenge. Not the one that happened all at once, but the one that built slowly, steadily into something unshakable. Owen opened the door and they stepped into their home, into their life, into their forever. And Maya knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together, dancing through whatever life threw their way, always in step, always moving forward, always completely, perfectly in love. The end of their story was really just the continuation of it, an ongoing dance that would last the rest of their lives. And if someone had told Maya that first night, when she told a nervous student to dance like no one was watching, that he had already memorized her every move, that he would become her entire world, she might not have believed it, but she would have hoped for it. Because even then, some part of her recognized Owen as someone special, someone worth knowing, someone who might just change everything. And he did. He changed everything in the best possible way. One Wednesday night ballet class at a time, one conversation at a time, one choice to show up and be present at a time, until showing up for each other was simply what they did, who they were, the foundation of everything they had built. That was love. Real, lasting, transformative love. And Maya and Owen had found it in the most unlikely of places, proving that sometimes the best things in life come from being brave enough to try something new, vulnerable enough to be seen, and open enough to let someone else in completely. They had danced like no one was watching and like everyone was watching, and in the end, the only thing that mattered was that they danced together, always together, forever.